For example, finish your office work at the office. Don't bring it home. Because if your children are not allowed in the office, then your office work should not be allowed at home either. In the world of investing, Warren Buffett, who is considered a king, ignores 99 and Ducosti out of 100 opportunities that come his way. Because he believes that the one difference between successful and normal people is that normal people say yes to everything, while successful people ignore almost everything. If you feel that you get very little time to complete your work, which makes you confused and unable to achieve much, then this video is for you. Today, I am going to share some insights from Greg McKeown's book, Essentialism, and from consulting with great companies like Apple, Facebook, Google, Twitter, and Radio B. These are techniques that many game changers around the world use in their day-to-day lives to achieve maximum output with minimal effort. The first thing I learned from Greg McKeown's book, Essentialism, is to be the director of your own life. Blockbuster movies that win Oscars are meticulously edited before release. This is so that the audience can understand the story well. That's why the editor removes all those other unnecessary scenes that aren't as important. In today's time, a busy lifestyle has become a status symbol for people because they have often heard that hard work is necessary to achieve something in life. As a result, they start considering busyness as hard work and add all the offers, projects, and opportunities they receive to their already existing to-do list. Don't get me wrong, hard work is important, but working hard in the wrong direction will be a waste of energy and a waste of time. For example, if a person runs 1 kilometer in every direction from a single point, that means they cover 206 kilometers. But still, they would only be 1 kilometer away from their starting point in any one direction. Whereas if another person runs 4 kilometers in one direction from a single point, that person would be 6 kilometers away from their starting point, in some direction. In both cases, the input was the same, but the output was different. Therefore, what you choose to avoid is just as important as what you choose to do. Being busy all the time doesn't mean you are working productively. If you think a little deeper, you'll realize that most of your tasks aren't as important as you believe. You must have heard about the Pareto principle, which states that 80% of your results come from just 20% of your efforts, and the remaining 20% of results come from the rest of your efforts and by staying busy all the time. Most people focus on that 80% of effort, which will only give them 20% of the results. And no matter how hard they work, they can never achieve the desired results and end up abandoning the task. No doubt, people work hard, and heroic results will come from working on the right things, not on everything. As you might have seen that the elevator in a building comes up by pressing the right button, not by pressing all the buttons. Therefore, it will be very important for you to identify which 20% of effort you do will give you 80% of the results. To identify that 20% effort you need to understand essentialism. Now you might ask, what is essentialism? Essentialism is a systematic discipline that teaches you where to use your time and energy to achieve your highest possible level. First of all, you need to understand that you are constantly trading your time and energy. Whenever you say yes to something, you are unknowingly saying no to everything else. To give an example, if your friend invites you to hang out and watch a movie, if you say yes to them at that moment, you are unknowingly saying no to your priorities. If you don't choose where your time and energy should be used, someone else will choose for you, like your boss or colleagues, which you obviously wouldn't want. That's why I learned about essentialism. Secondly, learn to say no gracefully. Designer Paul Rand, who designed logos for companies like IBM and ABC, refused to create a logo for Steve Jobs because Steve Jobs wanted several variants for his company. But Paul said that he would not create variants. He would make only one logo based on his ideas and Steve Jobs' requirements. He also told Steve Jobs that if he wanted options, he should go to another designer. But later, Paul created just one logo according to Steve Jobs' requirements, which Steve Jobs liked very much. Steve Jobs admitted that among all the people he had worked with so far, Paul was the most professional person and working with him was a very good experience in his life. The real lesson in this story is that when Paul said no to Steve Jobs, he became popular in Steve Jobs' mind for a short time. However, Steve Jobs gave him such respect, and Apple launched a Think Different poster for Poland. Many times it must have happened to you that you wanted to say no to a person, but to please that person, you said yes. But later, you might have regretted that it would have been better if you had said no. Sometimes saying no to people can be difficult, because you feel that perhaps it might ruin your relationship. But if you want to be effective, you will need to learn this skill. To say no gracefully to people, you can use any of these three methods. No doubt, by saying no, you might become unpopular for a short time. But in the long term, it will be very beneficial. You need to remember that you are rejecting the person's request, not the person themselves. So, the first method is the awkward pause. That means, take a pause for 5 seconds before giving your answer and then speak, to avoid regretting later. Avoid making any such commitments. The second is artificial delay. Whenever you are not 100% sure about saying yes to a person's request, you can use this technique. That means tell the person in front of you that you have several other important tasks pending right now. Therefore, I cannot make any promises to you at the moment, but I will definitely let you know after checking my schedule. So, you can think a little about that request. You can determine whether that request is essential for you or not. And lastly, suggest someone else. It will be very easy to use this if someone offers you something in which you are not at all interested, but you think another person might be interested in that task, then you can suggest them. Of course, you don't have to say no to everyone. Just say no to the requests that are non-essential for you so that you can say yes to the things that matter the most in your life. As you continue to work on your essential things, you will keep progressing in your field. Then you will find opportunities, and more people will want to work with you. This is all good, but if you cannot define essential and non-essential opportunities, this very success can also become the reason for your failure, which is called the paradox of success. Therefore, the third point is to set boundaries. Why is setting boundaries so important? I will explain this to you with the help of a concept called the sunk cost fallacy. If you know that you have incurred a loss, but still do not accept it and cause yourself another loss, it is called the sunk cost fallacy. You bought a movie ticket for 300 rupees, but later many people told you that the movie is very boring. Yet you think that since you have already bought a 300 rupee ticket, you might as well watch the entire movie. But you don't realize that by making this decision, you are causing yourself double the loss, meaning you won't get your money back. And in trying to recover that money, you will also waste your time. In other words, making a decision to avoid the first loss that results in a second loss as well. You can only avoid this sunk cost fallacy when you accept that you made a mistake and stop it right there, because some things are more valuable than others. That's why setting boundaries in life is very important, like finishing office work at the office itself and not bringing it home. Because if your children are not allowed in the office, then your office work should not be allowed at home either. Essentialists build boundaries to stay away from distractions and toxic people, allowing them to decide what work is essential and what is not. The word decision basically comes from a Latin word which means to cut. Whenever you make a decision, you cut out other reasons to choose one reason, allowing you to select the reason that is most essential in your life. From Warren Buffett to Steve Jobs, there are many great personalities in the world who live an essentialist life. In the book Essentialism by McKeown, if I summarize all the lessons I learned, not everything in life holds the same importance. Therefore, become the editor of your own life and remove unimportant things from your work so that you have more time for the important ones. Because stunning results come from working on the right things, or not on everything. Second point. Sometimes learn to say no to others so that you can say yes to the things and people that matter the most in your life. And the last point, build some ethics in your work life to create boundaries that keep toxic people, distractions, and non-essential things away from you. By following these three principles, you will easily be able to identify the 20% effort in your life and work that will give you 80% results, allowing you to work on that 20% effort and achieve more results even by doing less. I learned all these things from the book Essentialism by McKeown. If you want to read this book, you will find the link in the description. Finally, I would say that if you don't prioritize your life, someone else will. Thank you.